Montana, June 1876, in one of the final battles on American soil. The U.S. 7th Cavalry, under Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer, is utterly annihilated by a combined force of Cheyenne, Lakota, and Arapaho tribes at the Little Bighorn River in southern Montana. After 2 days of fighting, almost 300 U.S. soldiers lay dead. The battle has become imprinted in the American memory as Custer's last stand, but it was also the final desperate effort on the part of the Sioux Indians to preserve their way of life, which would be destroyed within the decade. It was their last stand as well. When gold was discovered in the Black Hills on land that had been promised to the Sioux, white prospectors surged into the area, and the United States government demanded that the Sioux evacuate the land and move onto reservations.
It was an empty space that needed to be filled up. They didn't see anyone there, certainly not anyone who was using the land in the way it should have been used.
The tribes making up the Sioux Nation united under tribal leader, Sitting Bull, and assembled in a camp on the Little Bighorn River, while other Indians from nearby reservations escaped to join them, against the will of the U.S. government. In response, a U.S. Army expedition of around 650 men was sent to disperse the assembled Indians and bring them back to the reservations. The U.S. force was divided into 3 detachments, one under Marcus Reno, another under Frederick Benteen, and the last under George Armstrong Custer, a veteran of the Civil War. The U.S. strategy was based around the assumption that the Sioux would put up no fierce resistance, and so emphasis was placed upon preventing their escape, rather than on open battle. The Americans also underestimated the size of the Indian camp, believing that Sitting Bull had only 800 warriors, while the number was closer to 2,000. Custer would only find out when it was too late. The attack began with Reno's column advancing up the river, with Custer taking up flanking positions across the river from the village. Reno was quickly engaged by numerous Sioux warriors and was forced to lead his men on a disorganized route to escape annihilation. It was only when Benteen's men joined him that Reno was able to hold off the tide of the Indians. Meanwhile, Custer led his fatal attack against the village from across the river, but was quickly driven back, forced to take up defensive positions on a rise that would become known as Custer's Hill. Benteen and Reno, similarly engaged 3 miles away, were unable to come to his aid. Here his men, badly outnumbered, made hasty defensive works and fought to the last man. With Custer defeated, the remaining U.S. forces were forced to retreat, resulting in a stunning victory for the Sioux. The battle was a bitter drink for the U.S. government to swallow, but the victory, however grand, could not save the Sioux way of life. It only increased the government's determination to take Sioux land, and by the end of the decade it would be stolen, and they would be forced onto reservations.